coat that's tied up. And it'll be a coat that no one has ever written on before. Now, I like this. I like this because check this out. That even in spite of all of the calamity that Jesus himself is going through, that Jesus still knew what the coat was. And if Jesus knows where the coat is, then he must also know where I am. And not only does he know where I am, but he also knows where you are.
Praise love.
He said, when you get there, you're going to find a coat. And the coat is going to be he's going to be tied. He all tied up. Now, when you get there, the first thing I want you to do is I want you to redeem the coat. I want you to redeem it. You see, because in order for me to get it, I have to first redeem it.
Come on, sir.
But you're going to find him there, but he's going to be all tied up. Now there is a theological problem that is now happening. Now it's a theological problem that we've got to look at, we've got to deal with, because in the book of Exodus, there's a law in Exodus that says that whenever a colt who has not been ridden is taken from its owner, it must be redeemed with a lamb. Now, I began to read the text, and I read all of the Gospels, and I looked at all of the writings about this particular event, and some theologians say that maybe Peter or John came back later on, and they brought a lamb back to give to him. But I'm of the persuasion that when the Bible is silent, that we too should be silent. Oh, I wish I had a witness there. So now I understand now that they didn't have to bring the lamb to the court, because they were getting ready to take the coat.
Watch out, sir.
They were ready to take the coat to the lamb. Now you got to understand the life of the colt. This is a colt that's been tied up to the post for a long time now. He's been tied up, and many times the colt feels overlooked. All of his brothers and sisters are out there working. It seems like the blessing is on everybody else. I wish there was about 7 to 8 of you in here that have ever felt like you've been overlooked, that have ever felt like people have overlooked you, and felt like everybody around you was getting blessed besides you, and everybody around you got a mate but you. But I've got some good news for you. Watch this. The colt was in isolation. The colt was isolated. But then understand this, that your isolation is just the installation of God's revelation. Now we need to get that. That your isolation is just the installation for God's revelation. It simply means that God has reserved you for a purpose. Oh, I'm talking to 17 of y'all at least in here. God has reserved. I know it seems like you've been overlooked, and I know it seems like everybody else is being blessed but you. But don't worry, because God has you reserved for a purpose. Let me deal with that for a minute. My wife and I, we was in Dallas, and we went to a restaurant. Went to the restaurant, and the restaurant was packed, filled with people. There were people at every table except one table. There was one table. There was nobody seated at that table.
Work, sir.
I looked over at the table. I was wondering who was so special about that one table. Well, the only thing special about that table was that table had a piece of paper on the top that said reserved. What that mean was, no matter who came in the door,
Preach, sir.
They could pick any table in the building except the table that was reserved because somebody called ahead.
Work, sir.
And said, save that table just for me. You gotta understand, I'm going somewhere. Hang on, you know, the pastor going somewhere. He's going somewhere. That the coach has been reserved for God. That, check this out, no one else could ride because of the reservation that was on his life. I thought about that table in Dallas. And I thought about this. Y'all go with me. Just use your imagination. Use your imagination. Go with me. Now, if someone had sat at that table who wasn't under the reservation, what would happen is the waiter would come to that individual, tap them on the shoulder, and say, excuse me, ma'am or sir, you can't stay here because this table has been reserved for somebody else. Let me bring it home. Can I have people with this? Let me bring it home. That's why some people have had to get out of your life.
Yes, sir.
You've been wondering why no relationship has worked yet. You've been wondering why people come in your life and go out of your life. Well, that's because they sat down at the table of your life that wasn't reserved for you. I wish I had a witness right there and thank the Lord. That's why. That's why they can say it. They tried to put their shoes under their table. But the Holy Ghost tapped them on the shoulder. And said, excuse me, ma'am, sir. But you can't stay here because she was there. She deserved and he deserved. They deserved. They deserved. You've been crying about that thing. You've been so worried about that thing, but you wondered why they left, but they left because they weren't part of your the coat has been reserved. It's been reserved.
Preach,
For
love.
the Lord. But the coat was all tied up. I can see that coat, I can see him, I can see him day after day, week after week, tied up to that same old coat. See, there's something about being tied up. See, when you're tied up, you can only go so far to the room for you, back to where you came from. But one day, I can see in that old coat's life, two disciples showed up. Two disciples showed up, and they had the right reservation. You gotta check this out. They came and they redeemed that old coat. They got it loose. And they took the old coat loose. They redeemed it. Now, the rope that used to be behind it, now is the thing that used to hold me back. It's now what's leading me up. I see him now. I see an old coat. I see an old coat walking with the disciples. I see him walking with the disciples. I see him moving. Can't you see an old coat? Looking back, saying, you don't own me.
Not going back.
Now, I believe the old coat look back and say, not
Going back.
going minute. There's no problem with the text. There's no problem with the text because although he's been redeemed, he's still
Tied up.
He's still tied up. See, that's how some of us work. We've been redeemed. You understand? Still tied up. But that was a word that Jesus used. Jesus told the disciples one word. And the word that has to do with his total and complete freedom. Then he told the disciples, when you go get it, don't only redeem it, but I need you to lose it. The word loose means to break off. It means to break free. It means to destroy. So he said, not only do I want you to redeem, but I also want you to lose it.
Yes, sir.
I want you to get whatever is binding. I want you to get it off of it. Because I can use it when he's bound up. I can use it when he's all tied up. I can use it when he's all tangled up. So whatever's been holding it, I need it to loosen. And then they go, now wait a minute. You don't know that you're really loose until you learn that when you're loose, you can move.
Watch out, sir.
You can move a little free when you're loose. Can't you see that old donkey? Can't you see it? Looking back at the old post, looking back at the old road, looking back at his master, saying, you don't own me anymore. Yeah. I see his master coming out saying, what you doing, Lucifer? And the disciple said, because the Lord has need of him. Why did God set you free? Because the Lord has need.
Yes, sir.
Why did God deliver you? Because the Lord has need of you. Why did God bring you out there?